If you've been wanting to live a greener life and implement it without paying a ton of money or feeling overwhelmed, well, you're in luck today. We are talking with green living expert Stephanie Moram. Stay tuned. Hey, Stephanie, how's it going?
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited that we actually got to do this. We were having tech issues last time, so I'm so glad we were able to make it work. the lovely thing of trying to film stuff virtually.
Right. And it's like to find the perfect light, right? Like half my
face
in the sun, half of it's not.
Oh yeah. Or when like yesterday I was filming one and my camera battery died halfway through. So I'm switching like cameras and then I'm like blown out and then I'm not. And like, oh yeah, I totally get it. So for those of you who don't know Stephanie, could you give a little background on yourself?
So I am a green living expert in a nutshell. I educate people on how to live a little more green, how they can save money, how they can lower their waste, and be gentle on the environment. I've been doing this. I would say I've been really, really involved in environmental issues probably for about 12 years. And how it all kind of got started was we lived in the United States for 3 to 4 years. My husband was working there. I took a sabbatical from work, so I had so much time on my hands. And we watched the movie Food Inc. And it completely changed the direction of our lives. It's just, if no one's seen that documentary, it's a great documentary. It just talks about our food system and how broken it is. And so it just opened up my eyes to food and the food systems. And so we just started eating a more organic diet, local diet. And once you go down a rabbit hole of any sort of sustainability, it just opens up so many other doors. So it started with food, then it led to the products we were using on our body, pregnant with my daughter. And then, snowball forward, I start a blog called Good Girl Gone Green. And, I'm getting all these questions, people asking me, where do you buy this? Where do you do this? What product should I use? Is this really sustainable? And so it just turned into a business.
That's incredible. And I'm sure like everyone's going to have questions too when they watch this YouTube. I know we're going to try and answer a bunch of them today. I believe like the first one, it would probably be like, everyone just gets overwhelmed. Like, how do I even start living green? And am I even going to be able to afford it? I think those are like the two biggest questions, right?
And I think the misconception is when it comes to sustainability and green living, that it has to cost money. And to truly live sustainable and green is to use what you already have. It's to use what you have and not go out and buy stuff. If you're on Pinterest or you're on Instagram, you see like these pretty pictures, live zero waste and go buy this, 20 million fancy straws and go buy these nice jars. Well, you know what? You can buy a peanut butter jar. And instead of putting it in the recycling, you can use that as a cup, or you can use that as storage. Like right now I have this old jar that used to have pasta in it, and now it's a cup. So I don't think it has to cost money. Yes, there could be an investment somewhere in the sense of, hey, I want to invest in organic sheets. I want to invest in an organic mattress. Yes, that'll definitely cost money. But when it comes to starting your journey, I think the best advice is to use what you already have and look around. A lot of zero wasters, encourage people to bring their utensils with them. And then we go down this rabbit hole of like, I need to buy bamboo cutlery now. Well, you actually have cutlery in your drawers and you could bring those. Or I need to buy fancy napkins when I go to when I go out to eat, because I don't want to use paper napkins. You don't have to go out and buy some. You could cut up an old t-shirt. You could use something else. So I think sustainability is all about using what you already have, shopping your closet, shopping your house before you go out and buy something. And even when you do decide to go buy something, you could probably find it secondhand.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people don't know too, like when you use, like if you do use paper stuff at home, you can compost it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Like the napkins, paper towels, Kleenexes, all that stuff can go in the compost. Like I didn't know this, not that I want to like share dog poop on here, but I didn't know you could compost dog poop. Like even that can like stay out of like the waste and the trash and can go in the compost bin. So like for those of you with animals, that's another way that you can reduce your waste that I found out recently. Yeah.
And also I'm just going to say with composting is to also check your local area.
Yeah.
What can and cannot be compost. I know Ontario has a really, really good waste management. I actually lived in the States for a little while. Not to say I lived in Ontario for about a year. And that was like many, many years ago when I was finished university. And that was like when I was introduced to composting, because everything is like separated. And Montreal area, I mean, it's only been maybe the last 5 years that there's been composting. And I know in Ontario and Toronto, like it's been 15 years, 20 years. So it's to check your waste management place, because like for me, we can't put in our compost, we are not allowed, they don't want us to put compostable bags. But there could be another municipality or another city that'll be like, yeah, you can. So it's always really important to check if you're doing city composting, what can and cannot go in it, because we assume like, oh yeah, we can put that in the compost. But what ends up happening is if we put stuff in the compost that they do not want in the compost, it just messes up the whole system, right? I was going for a walk one day and somebody had the siding of their wood siding of their house in the compost. And I'm like, what? I was like, okay, first of all, there's paint on it and that should not go in the compost. Who knows if there was nails in it? Yes, it's wood. Yes, wood can be composted, but not the side of your house. Like,
not the side of your house.
Like, okay, now you're like screwing up my composting, because I'm like super strict with composting. And I'm like, you're messing up my composting because you put siding of a house in compost. Like,
like I know some areas around here, like you were saying, there's different things. Like I know in Toronto, in some areas you can compost like specific types of diapers, right? Because my friend Allie was doing that. Yeah, which I didn't know, because here I've never seen anybody compost a diaper, right? I'm like, well, that's really cool. I wish that was a thing here, right? So that's very true, is check based on your city. And I'm sure they have that posted on like the city or the waste websites around your specific areas. So
yeah, most really places will have, like for my small town, it's very clear what can and cannot be recycled, what cannot go in the compost. And they also have it clear that if there's certain things you want to recycle, it can't go in curbside, but you can bring it to the facility itself. Right? So
speaking of compost too, how do people get in a habit of composting? Because like I so try, but like sometimes I slip up and I put it in the garbage. I'm like, crap, like that was supposed to go in the compost bin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like, how do people get in the habit of it?
I think it's to have it accessible and see it. Like for me, composting is second nature. Ours is in a drawer. We open the drawer, we have a bucket, but composting is like throwing stuff in the trash for us. Like our trash is so minimal. We compost and then we recycle what we can, and then the rest goes in the garbage. But for someone that it isn't second nature to compost, everything goes in the trash or the recycling, is to have it like on your counter. Maybe start off by having it on your counter, have it, we have this like plastic bin that we use, and it's in a tin and it like looks pretty. So I mean, if you really wanted to have something visually appealing that won't look like an eyesore on your counter, maybe pick up something that's nicer, but maybe have it on your counter so that when you are chopping up your vegetables, when you are, after blowing your nose or whatever that is, or you have a shower and you have hair, like I just dropped a bunch of hair in the compost. If you have it on your counter, then you're going to see it and be like, oh yes, I can compost that. Versus if it's tucked away in a drawer like mine is, and it's not, a habit for you, if you don't see it, you're not going to do it. Out of sight, out of mind. Exactly. So I think it's having it there. And then once it's a habit, like us, it's a habit, then you can be like, oh, I have this drawer that, rolls in and out, and I'll put it in there. But for me, I love composting because my garbage doesn't smell. The compost doesn't smell either. And our garbage bale, we don't even have a bag in it because nothing goes in there that would get it dirty, really. It's just stuff that really can't be recycled and stuff that really can't go in the compost.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like I've seen before, like you were saying, don't go out and buy things, but I've seen before when I was like really like trying to get into composting, they have like these garbage cans where like there's 3 compartments.
Right.
And like, I could totally buy it, but like it's spending an extra $100, right? Where like I have bins at home, like, because I'm also a cake artist, where I could take a plastic bin and put a compost bag over it and just use that. Yeah. But then it's just getting the habit. Yeah.
I think it's like a habit thing. It's, people that want to lower their waste, and when they leave the house, they forget their water bottle, their reusable water bottle, or they forget their reusable bag. It's okay. Where can I put it in my house that I see it and I won't forget it until it becomes a habit? So do you hang up your bag, your reusable bags right at the door? Do you have one in your purse that, folds up and it's in your purse or your bag? Do you leave one in the car? You know what I mean? Is there places that you leave it again? Oh yes, my bag. And you remember it. So it's like the compost. If you see it, you'll use it. If you don't, you forget it. Exactly. Like, again, everything is just such a habit for me that I don't generally forget anything, because it's like, I'm leaving my house, I automatically bring a bag with me. I automatically have my water bottle. Like, if I forget it, it's because I just, for whatever
my parents do that.
My
parents do. They keep it in the compartment of their trunk, right? Yeah. Well, I don't, and then I forget them because they're in my front closet underneath like the jackets, and I have 5 kids, so they get buried. So that's a good point.
Well, you could like have one. You could have like, you can get, I'm sure you can even find them at thrift stores, but I have a couple that I've had for like 10 years, and they roll up like in a ball, right? And so I have one in my purse for like the times that I'm totally stopped somewhere and didn't think I was going to stop somewhere. And then I'll have one in my trunk, and then I have the rest hanging up in the closet. So for me, when I leave the house, it's almost automatic that they're in the closet. So I always know they're in the closet. They're not like spread out. Some people are like, oh, I have them here, I have them here, I have them here. And you don't remember where they are. So if you have them in a spot where all my reusable bags are in the front closet, or wherever. And then you have one in your car, you have one in a bag that you usually always bring with you, then you'll always have it with you. So to go back to the whole composting thing, I think a lot of stuff that we do to make it a habit is to have it visual. So we see it and then we use it instead of hiding stuff away and then we forget that it exists.
That's a very good point. Yes. When it's out of sight, it is out of mind. So put it where you can see it, people. So do you have any courses or workshops, or like, what is happening right now with I can't talk.
Good Girl Gone Green. I know. Say it like 10 times fast.
The words don't want to exit my mouth. Good Girl Gone Green. There, that's a tongue twister. That really is. But it's a great name.
Thank you. I can tell you a quick story of how I came up with that name. So we were living in the States when I started my website. And there was a couple of names that my sister-in-law, super creative person, and she came up with a couple of names. She's like, how about this, this, and this? I was like, oh my God, they're so good. They're so creative. They're so nice. Didn't have a smartphone, didn't have an iPad back then. And I was debating between Good Girl Gone Green and Greener Ever After. It was like the 2 names that I loved. And I couldn't figure out which one. I'm like, I don't know. And it was my birthday, and my husband engraved Good Girl Gone Green on an iPad for me and gave it to me for my birthday. So I kind of just looked at him and was like, so I guess that's the name of my blog. Because you engraved it on an iPad. So now I have, and I love the name. So that's kind of how that name came about. So when it comes to the business side of what I do, I do offer coaching. So I offer like kind of like a one-on-one coaching. And what I offer is either a Zoom call if someone wants to chat with me, because, some people like the face-to-face aspect. Then there's people that are super busy. They have like a ton of questions, but they just don't have the time to schedule a call. So what I offer is like email. So they pay for coaching via email. So they email me their questions. And then within, 74 hours, I have those questions answered. I send an email to them, follow up. So then they don't have to spend that hour on a call with me, and they can actually sit through and be like, I have these 5 questions that I really want answers to. And then they send them to me and then I answer them. And I'm in the process of creating a very basic kind of, I don't have a name for it yet, but basic sustainability kind of 101, like 5 parts. If you're really new to sustainability and green living, like what are the 5 things that you can do to live more green, where it doesn't have to be expensive, but you can have an impact at the same time. So that should be coming out hopefully in the next month. And what I love about the course I'm going to create is we're all busy, right? Like we're all busy, we're all running around. But when you listen to a podcast and it's on a podcast platform, it's so much easier to consume content because if it's on your phone, the window doesn't close, right? Like if you're watching a video sometimes and you're like, listen, and it's only on video and your phone shuts down, then the video stops. And that is like the most annoying thing on the planet, unless you have YouTube Premium, which allows you to keep listening. So I'm creating my course as an audio so that people can consume it on the go. So if they're driving to work and it's a 10-minute video, a 10-minute audio, they can just listen to it like it's a podcast. So I'm kind of creating it that way to make it easier for people to consume it. The content.
That's a neat idea. I've never heard of that, but that is a really neat idea, because lots of times when I buy courses, I'm listening to the audio and not just necessarily watching the video unless I need to see a visual aspect.
Right. And there's nothing I'm teaching that is really visual.
Right. That's really cool. Yeah.
And isn't it annoying though, when you buy a course and you're like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk and listen to the content. And as soon as, and you have the window open, and as soon as you close it because you got a text message, the audio stops. I'm like, so annoying. So, but when you listen to a podcast, it just keeps playing over and over, and you don't have to worry about that. So I wanted to create something where if they're consuming it on the go, then it won't like shut down on them or anything.
Yeah. No, you had mentioned organic eating at the beginning. So I know like that is like a thing where people are like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be like way too expensive, right?
Right.
Can you dive into a little bit about that to like maybe debunk that myth?
Well, I think, yes, organic food, buying local, if you eat meat and you buy grass fed and you buy organic, yes, it is going to be more expensive. Like there's no way hiding that, because it's a supply and demand thing. There's less demand for those things. So obviously the price is going to be higher. But things that you can do if you're starting to eat more an organic local diet is to, one, you can grow your own stuff. So right now, do I have it? I'm going to actually show you. All right. So I have right here is I had lettuce, and when I buy my lettuce, it has like the bottom roots on it.
Yeah.
So I just put it in soil and it's going to grow through.
That's awesome. Yeah.
There's ways that you can grow your own food, like spring's coming, start a garden, grow your own lettuce, grow your own cucumbers, whatever fruit that whatever vegetable you consume the most. Like we consume a lot of peppers, we consume a lot of cucumbers and lettuce. Those are like the main things. So we're going to grow those things. So I think the first thing is to try to grow your own food. If that is totally not an option, it's then to look at what is your budget when it comes to food. If your budget is whatever your budget is, and then you look and you see organic food, you're like, I could never fit that into my budget. So it's to look at the food. So the Dirty Dozen is a great place to start. They list the top fruits and veggies that are the most contaminated when they're conventional. So that would be apples, that would be strawberries, a lot of berries, potatoes are high on that list. So instead of buying everything organic, because it's super overwhelming, right? Yeah. Is to, okay, I'm going to buy strawberries, I'm going to buy potatoes, and I'm going to buy the stuff on the Dirty Dozen that I consume organic, because they're higher in pesticides. Whereas maybe bananas are less and you're not as worried. So you'll buy conventional bananas because they're less expensive. So it's to make that balance when you're getting started. And, you know, it's getting rid of prepackaged food. Like, to be honest, prepackaged food is expensive. If you're looking at organic prepackaged food, it's also going to be expensive. So it's also to look at what you eat, right? You know, if you eat crackers, you know, prepackaged food, organic, I look at it this way is, so we eat chips. I love chips. Not gonna lie, I love chips. And who doesn't like chips? It's hard to find organic chips, right? Yeah. And I think about it, I'm like, these potatoes have been fried over and over again. Whatever is probably in that potato. I'm not a scientist either, so this isn't like any scientific background, but I just figured it has been processed so much that a lot of the stuff that might be in it might be gone. Because it's been so processed. So I think when it comes to organic food, fresh food, like fresh produce would be where I would start. And then the meats. So if you eat, you know, if you don't eat a lot of meat, well, it doesn't matter how much meat you eat, but if you eat meats, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to look for grass fed. I'm going to go to local farms. I'm going to try to support local farmers, because if you go to a local farm, it's going to be less expensive. And then if you want to even go like a notch higher, if you consume a lot of meat, it's to find a farm that'll sell you half a cow, you know, if you have the space in your house, like half a cow, a full cow, if you eat that much meat, or a quarter of a cow, or a pig, or whatever, if you're eating that meat and you want to save money, buying that in bulk is going to save you money. And then also, speaking of bulk, is if you consume, let's say, oats and hemp seeds and chia seeds and nuts and seeds and even peanut butter, you can buy those things in bulk. You can go to a refill store. Like we have an awesome one in our house. I go get oats, I get hemp seeds, all the things I mentioned, plus raisins. And I bring my own containers, and it's less expensive.
Okay.
And you could potentially waste less food because you're only buying what you need, right? Sometimes you see, you know, you see something, you're like, oh, it's on sale, I'm gonna buy it. And it's like this bag of oats that like you're never going to use, but it's on sale, so you buy it, but then you never use it. And it was almost a waste. It was like a waste of money. So by buying at like bulk stores or refill stations, if you barely use oats, but there's a recipe you really want to make that contains oats, then bring a small jar and only buy the amount you need. And then you're actually saving money because you're only buying what you need, versus I have to buy a big bag of oats because it's expensive, and on like it's less expensive, but it's on sale, but you're never going to eat the oats.
Yeah. Those are great tips. Yeah. Like that quarter cow, what you were saying, I've done that before. Like we get together like a few different families, like my mom and dad and like my brothers and stuff. And we will like buy like a quarter cow together and like split the meat and stuff. We've done that before. And like,
that's a great idea, right? Like,
and the farmers thing too. Yeah.
Friends that all eat meat, like I eat a vegan diet, but my family doesn't. So it's a great idea if there was like another family who's like, oh, we want grass-fed and organic. Okay, how about we come together and buy like the quarter cow or whatever size. And
even the potatoes, like my mom and dad, instead of buying them from the store in the winter, before the fall, they'll go and they'll buy like huge bushels of like potatoes from the farmers up the street, right? So like those are all great tips that you mentioned. Yeah.
There's always ways to, you know, again, from the very first question you asked was about like expense. And there is always going to be an expense. Like you are going to be consuming stuff, but it's to look at what you're doing and how can you make it less expensive. For us, like, and for me, food is important. What I put in my body and my kid's body is important. So that's where we invest a lot of our money, but we don't consume a lot. We don't buy stuff just for the sake of buying it. I don't go shopping. Like I'm not a shopping person. If I go somewhere, I go to a thrift store. But so it's like to look at what is your budget as a household and where do you want to put your priorities? Like, yes, organic sheets, organic pillows, organic mattresses are going to cost more money. But again, that's where we put our money versus buying all these like knickknacks that end up costing money, where we put our money goes to food and it goes to like where we sleep. And then, okay, clothing might be thrift clothing. It might be from sustainable brands. So money might be needed, but there's ways to not have to spend tons of money. Like think of our grandparents, like they used vinegar and water. You know what I mean? Like they were sustainable when it wasn't cool. They brought their own bags. They fixed their clothing, like fixing your clothing. Oh my gosh, there's like a patch on your clothing. You must not have money.
Yeah.
All my kids' clothing have patches. Like, and we're not hurting for money. You know what I mean? So it's to have that mindset of like, it's okay to fix your clothing. It's okay to sew up holes. It's okay to buy secondhand. It's not gross. You know what I mean? Just wash your clothing, wash the stuff you buy. It's okay to reuse what you have. It doesn't have to be pretty. Like you don't have to have that Pinterest perfect zero waste cupboard. If you saw my organization of how I organize stuff, you'd be like, okay, it's really ugly, Stephanie. And that's okay. Because I know it's ugly, because my organization isn't these perfect bamboo separators and all this stuff I bought at some store. It's literally boxes that I got from orders that I cut to make them short, and almond cartons that I cut and like Tetris them into my drawers. So now they're all organized. So lids are here. This is here. Does it look pretty? Absolutely not. But it's organized and it cost me no money.
Yeah. I totally get that.
All that from going to the landfill.
Yeah, we reuse. So like right beside me, I have yet to put it away. Right beside me is a box full of Christmas bags and birthday bags that we reuse every single year. Like we don't get rid of them. We put them in a box and we use them the next time there's a birthday or a Christmas and stuff. So like things like that too, like I totally understand, right? Like reusing what you have instead of throwing it out. But I love also the growing food tip you mentioned, because I have something called the Lakota Project, where we're helping people dealing with food insecurity and homelessness worldwide. So growing your own food would be a really amazing option for people that are having issues keeping the lights on and putting food on the table, right? Because you're producing your own food. So you're not necessarily having to spend money every week.
And it's even, like I mentioned, to regrow the food that you already have. So it's buying 1 or 2 lettuce, like a bunch of lettuce, and it might be a slightly more expensive, but where it has the roots, so you can regrow it. So then you're not even investing in the seeds and the plant. You know what I mean? It still costs money to buy the plant. It still costs money to buy the seeds. It still costs money to buy the dirt and the containers. But if you just have to get the dirt, but you have food that can regrow, you can regrow celery. Like I did it this past summer. I cut the top of the celery off, got some roots in some water, and then put it in some dirt, and then it regrew celery. So there's different foods that you can regrow. On Google search, you will find a lot of them. And it's just, again, if you don't have the money to go in and buy the seeds and the plants, and regrow the food that you have, because it's free. It's going to go in the garbage anyway.
And some of those foods would last through the winter as long as they're warm enough, right? Like tomatoes and peppers you can bring inside. I know my brother brought his pepper plants inside. His wife hated it because they're in his bedroom near the heat, but he brought them inside. So
and it's you can like regrow potatoes. Like I don't know the exact process. I've watched
they start to sprout and you can replant them. My parents do it every year.
Replant so many different things. It just it might take a little bit of time to look that up, but then once you do that, then you can have a garden that didn't cost you a lot of money, because you didn't have to you just had to buy the food you're going to consume anyway, and then regrow it.
Like my parents, those potatoes that I mentioned they buy from the farm or whatever they don't use, they start to sprout in the spring, and they have like a big garden in their backyards, and then they plant those potatoes that are sprouting, right? Instead of having to buy more for the summer, and then they pick up more potatoes from the farmer before the winter. So it's like an ongoing process.
Right. And you can also, like, if you have a little bit more disposable income, you can buy like growing some sort of growing tower. There's like a gazillion companies out there that you just buy the seeds, and within a couple of weeks you have lettuce. You know what I mean? So if you have some disposable income that you're like, okay, yes, I want to grow my own food, and having a garden all year, like, we're not going to have a garden all year. There's snow. But if you want to grow your food all year, well, maybe make an investment of $300. Is within your budget, because long term, that $300 or $400 you invest in like whatever grow thing you buy, because there's a gazillion of them out there. Well, you invested that $300 or $400, but it's going to last a really long time, and down the line you're actually going to save money. So it just depends, like disposable income as well, and where you want to put your money.
I know these have been incredible tips, because you've touched on a lot of things that people really bring up when they start to think, oh my gosh, green living. Okay, like I really want to do this, but like I have all these questions, and is it going to cost me a ton of money, and blah, 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 blah. Right. So like you've touched on, well, you can do this. Okay. Figure out your budget, and here's some options you can start with. Like, and you've touched on, you don't need to go out and buy all these like fancy items, right? You can reuse what you have at home, which I love. So that should kibosh the budget thing.
Well, I think it's to think back, like when our grandparents or great grandparents, or so long ago, what did they do? They didn't have the same resources we have. And like I mentioned before, they were living sustainably before it was cool. So what can you do that doesn't cost money? Growing your own food is like, you know, a lot of people say it's like growing your own money. Yes, there might be a slight investment, but Facebook Marketplace is your friend, people. If you don't want to go to a thrift store, I've gone on Facebook Marketplace looking for pots for my plants. Do you know how many people, they buy flowers and then they get these plastic pots, right? What they're going to go in the recycling, but people actually give them away for free on Facebook Marketplace, or they sell them for $1. Like, instead of even going, and stores sell these. Like, you could pay, I don't even know how much they cost. I've never bought one, but stores sell them, and then you go buy them, or you can go on Facebook Marketplace and find them for free. Like, I've put mine for free. I'm like, hey, I have these pots. If anyone wants them, I'll leave them outside. Come and pick them up.
Yeah.
It didn't cost me anything. It was just a plant that I bought. Right. So,
yeah.
Using like those kind of resources, like, okay, can I go on Facebook Marketplace? Can I find, I don't know, you're looking for like a small little appliance.
Yeah.
Before you go to the store or buy it online, just do a quick little search on Facebook Marketplace. Oh my gosh, the tea kettle I wanted is actually on Facebook Marketplace. It looks it looks clean. It's only going to cost $10. And if I go buy it new, it's like $50.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's also retraining your brain, right? It's, we started at the compost, like how can things become a habit? Well, when it comes to buying secondhand, it's like training your brain before you buy new. What do I already have at home and what can I get secondhand? Like my brain is trained. 95% of the time before I buy something new, I check if I can find it somewhere else. If it's something I want to buy secondhand.
Yeah.
The things I don't buy secondhand are mattresses and pajamas and sheets and stuff, because
you never know.
I want to have organic, and that's where we spend all our time, right? There's people that buy them secondhand, and that's totally cool. But I'm also on a very non-toxic path, so I'm always looking for stuff that's not going to like off gas. You can Google that if anyone's wondering what that is, but it's just like chemicals staying on your bed and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want my kids sleeping on that anyway.
Or bed bugs.
Totally tangent. Tangent. But it's to go to Facebook Marketplace and be like, and people sell plants on Facebook Marketplace. This is like, I did not know that. And I just bought a plant on Facebook Marketplace. And my husband said, it's the best of both worlds for you. You love plants and you can also buy them secondhand.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Really secondhand. I think other people are like propagating them, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to a store and spend all. So like, there's just so many things like that you can find on websites, on Facebook Marketplace, on Garage Sale, even eBay. Like, it's just to think outside of that box and train your brain and make it a habit. So making it a habit that, I want to get a stainless steel water bottle. Oh, maybe I can find one on Facebook Marketplace instead of spending $30 because they cost $30. After $30 for a stainless steel water bottle, I went to Village des Valeurs, which is Value Village, and I got 2 stainless steel water bottles for my kids for $3.
Oh, wow.
And I Googled the name to see if they were like a reputable brand of stainless steel, and they're like $30 water bottles in mint condition, basically.
That's crazy.
$6,
yeah.
Right? So it's like to think of those things of, can I find what I'm looking for on a secondhand store? And it's also to kind of change society a little bit, because a lot of people think it's gross. They do. And that's okay. That's okay. I love saving money and I love saving the planet, and it goes together. So it's to change like people's perception of like what secondhand is. Wash your clothing 3 or 4 times if you buy it secondhand. There's just different things you can do, and it's not gross. It's like a hand-me-down from someone you don't know.
I go check out like secondhand stores all the time. You can find some really cool pieces of clothing in a secondhand store that you can't find necessarily when you go to the mall. So
right. Like the mic I bought, because I have a podcast as well. The mic I bought, it didn't even dawn on me to go to Facebook Marketplace to see if it was, maybe someone bought it and they didn't like it. A lot of people.
This one's off of eBay. It's used.
And that's amazing. And it didn't even dawn on me when I bought it, because I'm like, I want a good mic.
Yeah.
And then after I was like, I could have, and then I went on Facebook Marketplace to like prove myself. I was like, crap, the exact mic I bought was like $200 cheaper.
Yeah.
But because a lot of people buy electronics and they think they want it. And then they use them once or twice and they don't, and they're not broken. So again, it's like, even I'm like retraining my brain in certain things to try to find them secondhand.
Yeah. That's amazing. So where's the best place for people to get in touch with you or to follow your journey and what you're doing in your business?
So I mostly hang out on Instagram. That's like my favorite place. And you can find me at This Is Stephanie Moram. My website is Good Girl Gone Green. And I also have a podcast called Green Junkie. So you can find my podcast and like listen to different episodes. I have a lot of guests as well. So I like chatting with people about what they do on their sustainability journey. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to drop all those links below this video so you guys can go check them out. Make sure you go. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so excited that we get to share these tips with people, because I know a lot of people in my life have been wanting to go green. And I know a lot of other people online have talked about going green, but there's always these things that come up, right? What we've been talking about. So this has been great. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
You're very welcome. And if I can leave your audience with one thing,
sure,
is what I said at the very beginning is to use what you already have before you decide to buy stuff, because you will be so surprised that you have what you need already at home and you don't have to follow the Pinterest boards and the Instagram to have the perfect item. You have most of the time what you need at home.
That's an incredible tip. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
I specifically help women who are coming out of divorce or breakup. But honestly, anyone watching this can listen to it through the filter of dealing with grief, loss, overwhelm, stress, reinventing yourself. Like who alive on the planet isn't going through that, who's been here for the last 2-3 years, right?
Right.
And we're all as a collective been going through massive 3 tips that I really want to give people that can help them, no matter who they are, what kind of business they're in or work, to help reprogram the stress that's coming up in their lives. And it's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And what I love about this, there's a few things I love about it. One is I also did study acupuncture and herbs many years ago. And so Emotional Freedom Technique is utilizing acupuncture points. It also reprograms the neurology in your mind, the neural pathways, I mean. So when we talk about the subconscious mind and our limiting beliefs, you know, I'm also certified in feng shui, and I always try to say it with an American accent because when I say it with in Chinese feng shui, people are like, "What are you talking about?" Certain, like physical environment, especially when we've been feeling so out of control during the last. Again, I keep referencing the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, because COVID for sure.
But let's say a woman coming out of divorce, or you just lost your job. What's the one thing you can do right away to feel better faster? So